Hello, dear friends. Welcome to Crime Story Diaries. Today, we'll be examining a terrifying case, so I invite you to watch the video. Don't forget to leave your comments and likes. From the promising arrival of Lauren Kanarek, an aspiring dressage rider with Olympic dreams of her own, to the gradual descent into paranoia and violence, this story serves as a cautionary tale about the pressures of elite sports, the power of social media, and the devastating consequences when disputes spiral out of control. Michael Barrison, born on August 17, 1964 in the United States, grew up riding horses in upstate New York. His passion for equestrian sports, particularly dressage, began at a young age and would shape the course of his entire life. Dressage, a highly disciplined form of horse riding, requires perfect coordination between horse and rider. It involves executing a series of predetermined movements, often described as a dance between horse and human. Barrison's talent and dedication to the sport became evident early on. He spent years honing his skills, understanding that success in dressage requires patience and constant improvement. As he often said, you can't take a horse out in a dressage sport. You can show up and in 5 rides be the world champion. It takes 2 years of rides to be the world champion. His hard work paid off, and Barrison's competitive career was marked by significant achievements. In 1997, he won a gold medal as a member of the Nations Cup team, a prestigious international equestrian competition. This victory established him as one of the top dressage riders in the United States. The pinnacle of Barrison's competitive career came in 2008, when he represented the USA as an alternate in the Beijing Olympic Games. This accomplishment solidified his status as one of America's elite dressage riders. Following his Olympic appearance, Barrison's reputation in the equestrian community soared. In 2009, he was awarded the Sportsman International Horseman of the Year, a testament to his skill and contribution to the sport. After the 2016 Olympic Games in Brazil, Barrison's fame reached new heights. Multiple competitors he had trained or coached won medals, showcasing his exceptional ability not just as a rider, but as a coach and mentor. This success led to an explosion in demand for his services. Throughout his career, Barrison was known for his flamboyant personality, positivity, determination, and competitive spirit. Those who worked with him described him as a supportive but direct coach, driven by a genuine love for his sport. His passion was evident in every aspect of his work, from training horses to mentoring riders. By the age of 54, Barrison had transformed his personal success into a thriving business. He owned 2 large equestrian facilities, one in Florida, where he could train with the horses during the winter months, and a larger property in New Jersey called Hawthorne Hill Farm. The New Jersey facility was particularly impressive, spanning 53 acres and housing over 40 horses. Hawthorne Hill became the center of Barrison's operations. It was home to a handful of working dressage students, as well as Barrison himself, his girlfriend Mary, and an assistant trainer named Justin. The farm was more than just a training facility. It was a testament to Barrison's lifelong dedication to dressage and his ability to turn his passion into a successful enterprise. Barrison's coaching style was unique. He didn't exclusively train any of his students, instead working with a team of qualified coaches to provide comprehensive training. This approach allowed him to oversee the development of multiple riders and horses simultaneously, maximizing his impact on the sport. His fame extended beyond the equestrian world. At the height of his popularity, Barrison appeared on the American satire show, The Colbert Report, where he taught the host about dressage, including its most challenging disciplines like passage horse walking sideways and piaffing fancy prancing. By 2018, Michael Barrison was more than just a successful dressage rider and trainer. He was a legend in the equestrian world, known for his ability to guide both horses and riders to Olympic-level performance. His journey from a young horse enthusiast to an Olympic athlete and renowned trainer was a testament to his skill, dedication, and passion for dressage. Lauren Kanarek's story begins far from the world of elite dressage competition. Born around 1981, Lauren was the daughter of Jonathan Kanarek, a wealthy retired attorney who had spent many years working on Wall Street before starting his own business. Despite her father's background in finance, Lauren's passion lay in the world of horses. From a remarkably young age, Lauren showed an affinity for equestrian activities. Her love affair with horses began when she was just 2 years old on a small horse farm in Wellington, Florida. This early exposure to horses ignited a passion that would shape the course of her life. Recognizing his daughter's enthusiasm, Jonathan Kanarek decided to support Lauren's interest. Despite having no personal involvement in equestrianism himself, he sponsored the construction of a stable on their property and purchased a pony for his young daughter to begin her training. This decision proved to be a turning point in Lauren's life, as she quickly demonstrated a natural ability to handle horses. Lauren's early training focused on dressage, a highly disciplined form of horse riding that requires precise movements and a deep connection between horse and rider. She took to the sport with enthusiasm, showing a particular aptitude for the harmonious movements required in dressage competitions. As she grew older, Lauren's commitment to the sport intensified. She transitioned from ponies to full-sized horses and began participating in amateur competitions. Her dedication paid off, and she started to accumulate achievements in the dressage world. Over the years, she won several national medals at the amateur level, establishing herself as a promising talent in the sport. Despite her success, Lauren was not content with amateur status. She harbored ambitious dreams of competing at an international level and even participating in the Olympic Games. These aspirations drove her to seek out higher levels of training and more challenging competitions. Lauren's pursuit of excellence in dressage was not just a hobby, it became her life's passion. She devoted countless hours to training, constantly working to improve her technique and deepen her connection with her horses. Her father's financial support allowed her to pursue this passion without the constraints that many aspiring athletes face. By 2018, Lauren had become an award-winning rider at the amateur level. However, she recognized that to achieve her Olympic ambitions, she needed to train with the best in the field. It was this drive for improvement that led her to seek out more advanced training opportunities. Lauren's path to elite-level training took a significant turn when she attended a horse competition in Wellington, Florida in 2018. It was here that she encountered Michael Barrasone, the former Olympian and highly sought-after dressage trainer. Recognizing the opportunity to learn from one of the best in the field, Lauren was determined to secure a spot as Barrasone's student. The meeting with Barrasone was a pivotal moment for Lauren. She saw in him the key to unlocking her full potential as a dressage rider. With her father's financial backing and her own determination, Lauren made arrangements to move her horses from North Carolina to Barrasone's training facility in Long Valley, New Jersey. This decision represented a significant commitment. Lauren was not just changing trainers, she was uprooting her entire life to pursue her dressage dreams. The move to New Jersey was a testament to her dedication to the sport and her belief that training with Barrasone could elevate her skills to a world-class level. As Lauren prepared to begin her training with Barrasone, she was filled with hope and ambition. She saw this as her chance to transform from a successful amateur into a potential Olympian. Little did she know that this decision would set in motion a chain of events that would dramatically alter both her life and Barrasone's in ways neither could have anticipated. In March 2018, Lauren Kanarek began training with Barrasone, paying $5,000 monthly for training, horseboarding, and accommodation. She and her boyfriend, Robert Goodwin, lived in the upper-floor apartment of the farmhouse, with Barrasone and his girlfriend Mary occupying the main level. The arrangement initially seemed beneficial, with Lauren excited about training with a world-class expert. However, tensions arose when Lauren's expectations of exclusive training with Barrasone himself weren't met. The reality of working with assistant trainers like Justin Harden and Mary Haskins Gray became a source of conflict. By the summer of 2019, approximately a year after Lauren Kanarek had begun training at Hawthorne Hill, the situation had deteriorated significantly. What had started as a promising training arrangement had devolved into a complex web of conflicts and accusations. Lauren's primary source of discontent stemmed from her perception that she was not receiving the level of training she had expected. She felt that she was being tossed to the side and that her presence at Hawthorne Hill was valued only for the money she paid. Lauren was particularly frustrated with the fact that she often trained with Barrison's assistants, Justin Harden and Mary Haskins Gray, rather than with Barrison himself. This frustration was compounded by Lauren's ambitious nature. She had come to Hawthorne Hill with Olympic aspirations, and she believed that only direct, consistent training with Barrison could help her achieve these goals. However, from Barrison's perspective, it was standard practice for students to work with assistant trainers, especially those who, like Lauren, were still developing their skills. The conflict extended beyond just the training arrangements. Lauren began to clash with other individuals at Hawthorne Hill, particularly Mary Haskins Gray. The two women had very different approaches to their sport, and indeed to most aspects of life at the farm. These differences led to frequent disagreements and a growing sense of tension in the shared living spaces. As her dissatisfaction grew, Lauren began to voice her complaints publicly. She took to social media, particularly Facebook, to air her grievances about life at Hawthorne Hill. Her posts painted an increasingly negative picture of her experience, accusing Barrison of various misdeeds and character flaws. In her social media posts, Lauren described Barrison as a bully. She went further, making serious accusations, calling him racist, anti-Semitic, and using other derogatory terms. These posts were not just expressions of frustration, they were direct attacks on Barrison's character and reputation. Lauren's online activity didn't stop at complaints about her training. She began to make posts that could be interpreted as threatening. In one post, she wrote about going to war, stating, "It's about time to possibly go to war. Anyone who repeatedly kicks a resting beast will eventually wake her up." She referred to her dog, Rosie, as the Night Army, and spoke of attacking with weapons hot. These posts deeply unsettled Barrison and others at the farm. They saw them as not just complaints, but as direct threats to their safety and well-being. Barrison, in particular, became increasingly concerned about the impact these posts could have on his reputation and his business. The situation was further complicated by the living arrangements. Despite the growing tensions, Lauren and Robert continued to live in the farmhouse on Barrison's property. This meant that the conflicting parties were in constant close proximity, with little opportunity to diffuse tensions. By July 2019, the atmosphere at Hawthorne Hill had become untenable. Barrison and his girlfriend Mary had relocated from the farmhouse to the clubhouse room in the stables, sleeping on couches while Lauren and Robert remained in the house. Mary's 11-year-old son, who had been staying with them, was sent back to his father for his own safety. Barrison was increasingly interpreting Lauren's Facebook posts as threatening. He believed that Lauren and Robert were stalking him and Mary on the property, particularly at night. He also suspected that they were listening in on his private conversations. The deterioration of relationships at Hawthorne Hill had reached a critical point. What had begun as a standard training arrangement had transformed into a hostile living situation, with both parties feeling threatened and aggrieved. This toxic atmosphere set the stage for the dramatic events that were to follow. As the summer of 2019 progressed, the conflict between Michael Barrison and Lauren Kanarek escalated significantly, leading to multiple interventions by law enforcement and other authorities. On July 31, 2019, Barrison made his first call to 911. He reported that Lauren and Robert were in the horse barn after 9 p.m., violating a rule he had established. In the call, Barrison referred to them as scumbags and stated that they had chased him out of his house. He requested that the police warn them about their behavior. Just a few days later, on August 3, 2019, Barrison made another call to 911. This time, his tone was more urgent. He told the dispatcher, "These people are on our place. They have been living in our house in one of the apartment units. They are clients here at our horse stable. The situation is getting worse and worse and worse. The police have been here twice in the last 3 days. They're nuts. They're stalking us. They're harassing us." During this call, Barrison also mentioned a concerning Facebook post by Lauren. He paraphrased the post as saying, "My split personalities are going to take over and I am not in control of what they do." Barrison expressed fear for his life and that of his family. Lauren, for her part, also contacted the authorities. She called the non-emergency police number to report a suspicious black car driving around the property late at night. She expressed concern about overheard conversations about potential harm to her and Robert. The situation continued to deteriorate. Barrison made a total of 4 emergency calls to the police within a week leading up to August 7, 2019. However, the response from Morris County law enforcement was largely dismissive. They determined the situation to be a civil matter or a private dispute, not a criminal issue, and therefore not worthy of further investigation. In an attempt to resolve the situation, Barrison's attorney sent a letter to Lauren and Robert insisting they vacate the farmhouse. However, Lauren felt she couldn't relocate herself and find accommodations for 5 horses on such short notice. The conflict wasn't limited to just calls to the police. On August 6, 2019, agents from the Washington Township Housing Inspector arrived at the farm in response to a letter from Lauren and Robert claiming multiple code violations. As a result, officials posted notices telling everyone to vacate the premises or face a fine of $5,000 per day. Further complicating matters, Lauren filed or planned to file a formal complaint against Barrison, with multiple governing bodies alleging assault or misconduct. She and Robert also submitted a formal written complaint to SafeSport, an organization that fields allegations of abuse in U.S. Olympic and Paralympic sports. The most serious allegation came on August 7, 2019, when the New Jersey Division of Child Protection and Permanency arrived at the farm to investigate claims that Barrison had abused his girlfriend's children. This visit, which Barrison saw as the coup de grace in Lauren's campaign against him, would prove to be the tipping point in the conflict. The events of August 7, 2019, marked a tragic turning point in the ongoing conflict at Hawthorne Hill Farm. The day began with a visit from the New Jersey Division of Child Protection and Permanency, investigating allegations of child abuse against Michael Barrison. This visit, which Barrison viewed as a false accusation orchestrated by Lauren Kanarek, appears to have been the final straw in their deteriorating relationship. Shortly after the child protection agents left the property, at approximately 2:10 p.m., Barrison went to his office. There, he retrieved a 9mm Ruger pistol from a safe. The gun, described as a lady's gun, belonged to a friend of Barrison's, Dr. Ruth Cox, who also kept horses on the farm. Barrison loaded the weapon and drove his truck to the farmhouse where Lauren and Robert were staying. The exact sequence of events that followed is disputed, with different accounts provided by the involved parties. According to Lauren's testimony, she saw Barrison near some bushes and approached him to talk. She claims that as soon as she began speaking, Barrison pulled out the gun and shot her twice directly in the chest. Robert Goodwin's account corroborates Lauren's version. He stated that he saw Barrison raise the gun and shoot Lauren twice when she was about 4 feet away from him. Robert then claimed that Barrison turned the gun on him and fired a shot, which missed. After the shooting, a physical altercation ensued between Barrison and Robert. Robert testified that he managed to put Barrison in a chokehold, causing him to pass out briefly. During this struggle, Lauren and Robert's dog, Rosie, also became involved, inflicting puncture wounds on Barrison. At 2:13 p.m., Lauren placed a call to 911, reporting that she had been shot and was having difficulty breathing. When police arrived at the scene, they found Lauren with 2 gunshot wounds to her chest. Barrison was on the ground with Robert restraining him, and a 9mm firearm was found near Barrison's left hand. Barrison, for his part, claimed to have no memory of the shooting itself. He remembered retrieving the gun from his office and driving to the farmhouse, but his next memory was of waking up handcuffed to a hospital bed. Despite this claimed memory loss, police overheard Barrison making statements such as "I had a good life" several times, as well as "They destroyed my life in the last 6 months. They took it all away. I'm sorry this happened." Lauren was immediately rushed to the hospital in critical condition. She underwent life-saving surgery and spent about 3 weeks in intensive care, including 4 days in a coma. Barrison also required medical treatment for head injuries and the puncture wounds inflicted by the dog. The aftermath of the shooting was chaotic. 2 shell casings were found at the scene, and there was shattered glass on the back door of the house, indicating the direction of at least 1 bullet. Interestingly, while Lauren had used Robert's phone to call 911. Both her and Robert's phones were later found at the base of the umbrella stand. This violent incident marked the culmination of months of escalating tensions at Hawthorne Hill Farm. What had begun as a training arrangement between an Olympic level coach and an aspiring rider had devolved into a situation of fear, accusations, and ultimately violence. The events of this day would have far-reaching consequences for all involved, leading to a complex legal battle and forever changing the lives of Michael Barrasone, Lauren Kanarek, and those around them. In the hours following the shooting on August 7, 2019, law enforcement quickly moved to secure the scene and gather evidence. The police found 2 shell casings at the location, corroborating the accounts of 2 shots being fired. They also noted shattered glass on the back door of the house, which provided information about the direction of at least 1 bullet. Michael Barrasone was arrested at the scene. While receiving treatment at the hospital, he was overheard by police making several statements. He repeatedly said, "I had a good life," and also stated, "They destroyed my life in the last 6 months. They took it all away. I'm sorry this happened." These statements were later used as evidence of his state of mind at the time of the shooting. Interestingly, investigators did not test Barrasone, Lauren, or Robert for gunpowder residue to verify who had fired the weapon. This omission would later become a point of contention in the legal proceedings. Lauren Kanarek was rushed to Morristown Medical Center in critical condition. She had sustained 2 gunshot wounds to her upper chest and required immediate surgery. Lauren spent about 3 weeks in intensive care, including 4 days in a medically induced coma. The injuries were life-threatening, and her recovery was expected to be long and challenging. On August 8, 2019, the day after the shooting, Barrasone was formally charged with 2 counts of attempted murder. The charges were for the life-threatening injuries sustained by Lauren and the alleged shot fired at Robert Goodwin. Barrasone was also charged with weapons offenses. The legal process commenced shortly after the shooting. Barrasone was charged with 2 counts of attempted murder and weapons offenses. His defense team, led by Edward Belinkas, entered a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. This uncommon defense strategy aimed to demonstrate that Barrasone had experienced a mental breakdown, rendering him unaccountable for his actions. The prosecution, led by Christopher Schellhorn, sought to present the case as a straightforward attempted murder. As the trial approached in 2022, Barrasone's appearance and demeanor had noticeably deteriorated. He was held in custody without bail during this period. The trial began in late March 2022 in Morristown, New Jersey. It involved testimony from numerous witnesses, including Lauren Kanarek, Robert Goodwin, and Mary Haskins Gray. The prosecution focused on Barrasone's actions on August 7, 2019, arguing that retrieving a gun and shooting Kanarek constituted clear intent to kill. They urged the jury not to be swayed by any negative information about Lauren or Robert. The defense portrayed Barrasone as a victim of prolonged harassment, emphasizing the lack of response to his multiple 911 calls in the week leading up to the shooting. They argued this contributed to his deteriorating mental state. Much of the evidence regarding Kanarek's past behavior and criminal history was deemed inadmissible, frustrating the defense's efforts to provide context for Barrasone's state of mind. Mary Haskins Gray testified about Barrasone's declining mental state, describing how Kanarek's social media posts deeply affected him and others at the farm. Robert Goodwin provided his account of the shooting, claiming he saw Barrasone shoot Lauren and then attempt to shoot him. The defense questioned inconsistencies in his testimony. Lauren Kanarek described her dissatisfaction with the training arrangement and denied making child abuse allegations against Barrasone. The defense's attempts to question her about her social media posts were limited by the court. Defense experts Dr. Stephen Simring and Dr. Charles Hassan testified that Barrasone suffered from persecutory delusional disorder. They believed Kanarek's social media posts contributed to his mental decline. The prosecution's expert, Dr. Louis Schlesinger, countered that there was no evidence of psychosis in Barrasone. He suggested Barrasone might have been exaggerating his symptoms. In closing, the prosecution urged the jury to focus on Barrasone's actions on the day of the shooting. The defense emphasized the alleged campaign to destroy Barrison and questioned the credibility of Kanarek and Goodwin's testimonies. The jury deliberated for approximately 18 hours over several days. They requested clarification on the expert evaluations and reviewed specific testimony, indicating careful consideration of the mental health aspects of the case. After nearly 4 days of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. On April 12, 2022, they returned to the courtroom to deliver their decision. The tension in the room was palpable as the foreperson stood to announce the jury's findings. For the first count, attempted murder of Lauren Kanarek, the jury found Michael Barrison not guilty by reason of insanity. This verdict indicated that the jury accepted the defense's argument that Barrison was not in a rational state of mind when he shot Kanarek. On the second count, attempted murder of Robert Goodwin, the jury found Barrison not guilty. This verdict suggested that the jury was not convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that Barrison had actually fired a shot at Goodwin, possibly due to the lack of physical evidence supporting this claim. For the third count, possession of a weapon for an unlawful purpose to use against Lauren Kanarek, the jury again found Barrison not guilty by reason of insanity. This verdict was consistent with their finding on the first count. Finally, on the fourth count, possession of a weapon for an unlawful purpose, presumably in relation to Robert Goodwin, the jury found Barrison not guilty. The verdicts were a clear victory for the defense team. Their strategy of arguing that Barrison was not in his right mind at the time of the shooting had been successful. The jury had been convinced that the former Olympian's mental state at the time of the incident rendered him not criminally responsible for his actions. Upon hearing the verdict, Barrison, who had appeared frail and distressed throughout the trial, became emotional. He was seen embracing his attorney, tears in his eyes. The defense team celebrated the outcome, describing it as justice being served. For Lauren Kanarek and her family, however, the verdict was a devastating blow. They had hoped to see Barrison held accountable for his actions and were shocked by the jury's decision. Following the verdict, Barrison was transferred to psychiatric care rather than prison. In September 2022, he was moved to a less restrictive facility for at least 6 months of further treatment. His once illustrious equestrian career was effectively over, with organizations barring him from competitions. Lauren Kanarek, despite her physical recovery, continued to grapple with the emotional impact of the shooting. She filed a civil lawsuit against Barrison, who countersued in response. Barrison also took legal action against the police officers who had responded to his earlier calls for help. The case had broader implications for the equestrian community, raising questions about handling disputes in high-level training environments. Jonathan Kanarek, Lauren's father, expressed dismay at the verdict, believing Barrison should have been held criminally responsible. As of the last update, Barrison's future remained uncertain, dependent on ongoing psychiatric evaluations. The story of Barrison and Kanarek serves as a stark reminder of how unchecked conflicts can escalate to life-altering consequences, underscoring the importance of mental health awareness in high-pressure environments. Traditionally, thank you for watching, and remind you that it would be great if you support the video by liking and subscribing to the channel.